What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the No Fun League. Today we are recapping Week 1 in the NFL. All 15 games so far. This is being recorded on Monday afternoon. Obviously, the Jets and the Niners play tonight. There will be a separate recap of that out tomorrow morning. So let's get right into it with last night's game, the Lions and the Rams. Two teams that I genuinely think should have to play each other twice a season at least, just because of how good their games have been. But the overtime, the Lions defense or offensive line absolutely took the Rams' young defense to the woodshed. Like, they ran the ball in every single play, and they were getting 5-6 yards a pop, and it culminated with them just shoving David Montgomery like 5 yards extra after the end of a play to the 1 yard line, and then they just ran it in, and that was game. So another huge win for the Lions against the Rams. Another win for Jared Goff against McVay and the rest of his former team. Matthew Stafford played insanely well outside of an interception in the end zone at the end of the first half, which probably wins them the game if, they get points on that drive. No overtime. And Jared Goff missed some throws too, so it's not like Stafford lost his team the game entirely. But Matthew Stafford also single-handedly kept them in it. He made some of the craziest throws and was just consistently leading them down the field because they couldn't really run the ball because they were missing like 5 starting offensive linemen. So he was dinking and dunking. Him and Cooper Kupp were all the way back. It was really good. I think my biggest takeaway from this game is the fact that the Detroit Lions defense might actually be good this season because they were generating pressure from people other than Aiden Hutchinson, who had an insane game. But, Marcus Davenport, a couple other guys were playing really well too. And they're going to add DJ Reader to this at some point. Like, DJ Reader is a really good interior defensive lineman. They're going to add him at some point in the middle of Davenport and Hutchinson. And if Marcus Davenport can stay healthy, look out. On top of that, the cornerback room, Carlton Davis had a really good game. Terrion Arnold, for first game as a rookie cornerback, had a pretty damn good game as well. And just all in all, like I said, phenomenal game from these two teams. Matthew Stafford was elite. And overall, both teams played really, really good football. And the Rams just got dominated at the end by the Lions' defensive line because I think we all knew that was going to happen. Final score was 26-20, Lions win in overtime, but just a great game to watch and a great nightcap for the first full Sunday of football. Now let's go all the way back to Thursday night, September 5th, my birthday, shout out. Let's talk about Ravens-Chiefs. Now, I did like a TikTok about how the game ended with Isaiah Likely's toe on the line. It was likely out. All the puns in the world could be made. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. The Ravens won the time of possession battle by 7 minutes. They had 100 more total yards, mostly because they had 100 more rushing yards. Yet they still lost, and they didn't look like they were in control for any portion of that game. That wanted defense from last year didn't really look like it could consistently stop Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs averaged 7 yards a play, Ravens 6, or they averaged 1 more yard per play, committed 1 less penalty, and the Ravens missed a field goal, which, if Justin Tucker's missing field goals, that insane shit is happening in the world. The most surprising thing for the Ravens for me is the fact that your wanted acquisition, like your hyped up acquisition, the thing that you were most excited about was Derrick Henry in that offense alongside Lamar Jackson and the 2 tight ends, Zay Flowers. He had 13 carries for 46 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, that's over 3 yards a carry. He scored a touchdown. But most of those carries were in the first half. Why would you go away from the run game that much? And why is Justice Hill getting the ball? Now, Justice Hill is a decent running back. He's not Derrick Henry, though. Imagine Derrick Henry in the third quarter, fourth quarter. You've already been rain delayed. It's a tired defense. It's the first game of the year. Derrick Henry doesn't get tired. Just run the dang ball. I don't know. This is the second time in a row where they haven't really done that well. Overall, they ran the ball, like I said, they ran the ball much better than the Chiefs did. But that's just because the Chiefs, half the time, instead of running a play, they just, throw a screen to Pacheco instead. Now, the Chiefs' offense played pretty damn well. Obviously, Mahomes had the one really bad interception. Kelsey didn't get a lot of targets until later in the game. But you saw what you wanted to see from them. Xavier Worthy looks legit. everybody on the timeline was like, oh, how'd the Bills let this happen? Rashee Rice had a really great game as well. He wasn't speeding away from everybody, but he was consistently making catches. And yeah, I'd say my MVP for this game was Leo Chenal. He was all over the place making plays, stepping up with Willie Gay now on the Saints. So yeah, it was for the first game of the season after we even had to wait extra long after that rain delay. It was really good in my opinion. And yeah, let us get into probably the most crack-headed game of the week. Eagles-Packers. You're in Brazil. You're on a very sloppy field. Everybody's slipping and sliding all over the place. And so, for context, I'm in Philly for this game. And I walk into a bar, see all my friends, and they're already complaining. I'm like, oh no, what happened? So I went back and watched. Jalen Hurts throws an awful interception. Next drive, he fumbles a snap. New center, Cam Jurgens is the center, which he did pretty decent overall, but, it's not Jason Kelsey back there. It's not a Hall of Famer back there. And then, other than that, the Eagles defense did a really good job in the beginning of the game limiting the damage of the turnovers. They were able to stop the Packers from scoring. Obviously, there was the one play where the Packers scored, but both teams had 12 men on the field, so that came back, which came back to haunt the Packers. On top of that, Packers defense. You guys had Mike Pettin. He wasn't very good. Then you guys had whoever it was last time. I don't even remember his name. He was so bad. And now you hire this Jeff Hafley guy who, was the head coach at Boston College. And the defense was with Jair Alexander, Quay Walker, Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, some really Xavier McKinney just got added into that defense. Like, you have such good players, and yet you're continuously being a liability. You'll have 34 points to the Eagles. Now, it is the Eagles' offense. Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen, the entire shebang. But, you can't do that with the talent that you have and the money that you spent on that defense. Obviously, most importantly, Jordan Love, on basically the last play of the game, injures his knee. He's going to be out for 3 to 6 weeks. That's obviously the biggest takeaway from this game because, everybody was excited to just watch him play, and Packers fans were hoping to see him have a full consistent season. And now it looks like it'll have to be like last year where week 8, week 9, they just immediately start clicking on all cylinders and make it to the playoffs and then raise some hell. That's the plan that they'll have to follow again, unfortunately, because of the injury. My team MVP, or not team MVP, but my MVP for this game is a guy who I was talking to people. I said that he was going to make a difference this year. Zach Bond, 15 total tackles, 2 sacks, and a tackle for loss. Have yourself a game, man. First, it doesn't really work out with the Saints. You sign a low-money deal with the Eagles. Phenomenal first game. And just one other side note for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts ran the ball 13 times. It's still not looking like MVP season, Jalen, the year that they went to the Super Bowl, but it looks better than last year, so that's off to a really encouraging start. Moving on to a not as fun game, the Steelers and the Falcons. The Steelers end up winning 18 to 10. They don't even need to kick a touchdown to win, or they don't even need to score a touchdown to win this game. They kicked 6 field goals because the Falcons just played a fairly abysmal offensive game. And it was going around the internet yesterday. A lot of people were pointing it out. A lot of people that get paid more than me to talk about football. But Kirk Cousins does not look healthy whatsoever. It feels like the offense itself is much different than it's meant to be because of his injury. And he's not as just fearless, I guess, as he usually is. And that was evident. Now, obviously, you're playing in your first game off of torn Achilles at 36. Playing TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Cam Hayward, you're going to want to be hesitant. But, it felt like it was aggressively so. And, this felt like a moment where, maybe you let Penix start the season and let Kirk get fully healthy. But that's just me. And just the fact that you draft a guy in the first round with the top 10 pick is just going to lead to a lot of controversy and conversation off the field that will make this an even bigger distraction than it is already. Other than that, Justin Fields found out that he was starting like 2 hours before game time, and he played pretty well, honestly, in my opinion. He did not have any like horrible mistakes. He did not lose them the football game. He didn't pull a Will Levis, and overall, George Pickens. Jesus Christ, I got confused between Kenny Pickett and George Pickens for a second. My bad, Pittsburgh fans. 6 catches on 7 targets for 85 yards. Pretty good outing from him as like the legit number 1 receiver, unquestioned. And Chris Lindstrom had probably his worst game in the NFL. Allowed the highest pressure rate of his career. So yeah, there was a lot of things that did not go right for Atlanta. It just looked uninspiring, but at least Kyle Pitts caught a touchdown. Let's go. It might finally be the year that Kyle Pitts is good in fantasy. And then team MVP, obviously, TJ Watt, just an absolutely destructive force and an elite game from him. Moving on to the second most crack-headed game of the week. Bills-Cardinals. Final score here was 34-28 Bills. Now, the Bills got off to a horrible start. They were losing by 10 points. I think it might have even been more than that. It might have been a 17-3 deficit. But the Arizona Cardinals, what did they do well? James Conner, 83 total yards, 1 touchdown. Kyler Murray played phenomenal football. He looked like he wasn't playing healthy or anything like that. Or he was playing fully healthy finally. And just like the escapability and everything else, he looks like a little kid trying to get candy, but like, hey, it's working. And it worked really well yesterday. Josh Allen, he had some Josh Allen plays. He held the ball for way too long on the sack fumble in the beginning of the game. And he also just barely threw the ball in the first half. I think they were at the 2-minute warning, and bro had passed twice. Now, he completed both of them, but he had passed twice, and it's Josh Allen. But a lot of running around from him, 2 rushing touchdowns. And then second half, they start getting going, and then obviously they win. Arizona tries to come back. Comes pretty darn close to it. If Kyler Murray sees Marvin Harrison Jr., insane. That would be insane again if he did that to the Bills again. Marvin Harrison Jr. did not have a great first game as an NFL player, but I think that'll figure itself out. I think they had a game script coming into it, and their chemistry will get much better as the season goes on. For the Bills, their defense needs to tighten up and soon, because while the Cardinals' offense is good, they do a lot of creative things and all of that. 28 points? Now, there's a lot of new pieces and everything like that, so they will get it figured out. But, that was an uninspiring defensive performance, but probably the best offensive game of the year, or of the week so far, because of how putrid some offenses looked, which we will get into in a second. Greg Rousseau had a really good play on the strip sack for Kyler, which is encouraging. He can be like the star of this Bills defense with guys like Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer gone. My MVP for this game is obviously Josh Allen, because he was doing literally everything in his power to win. He was Superman. And like I said in my preview, that's what they're going to need in order to win these games for the time being. Moving on to Caleb Williams, the Prince, in his first game. The Chicago Bears win 24-17. They become the first team in a really long time to win a game by putting up less than 150 yards of offense. They scored 10 points as an offense, yet they still win because the Titans didn't feel like they wanted to win a football game. Now, I was a big proponent of the Bears defense in fantasy football, and 2 quarters in, it looked like that was a real bad decision, and I was regretting everything. And then we had a blocked punt return for a touchdown. We had a pick return for a touchdown. And we had some other turnovers forced. Will Levis played awful in the second half. He was okay in the first half. Overall, Caleb Williams, obviously it was not a good first game. I think some stats or whatever, everybody can create a stat for everything. Him and Desmond Ridder were the only people in it. And you don't want to be considered with anything with Desmond Ridder if you want to be a successful NFL quarterback. So, it's off to as worst a start as it could get, yet he still won a game, so it's good. I think he was the only rookie quarterback to win a game. So, that's encouraging. The Bears' defense is encouraging. Their pass game needs to get better because, Keenan, Roma Dunze, who might be hurt, he has to get an MRI today, and DJ Moore. None of them really had a shining moment. So that all will have to get worked on and get better. Maybe Luke or Shane Waldron, I believe, is the offensive coordinator. Shane Waldron, maybe there's a reason that Seattle moved on. But overall for the Titans, it came out that DeAndre Hopkins is playing with a meniscus injury, like a knee injury. So they got to figure out how impactful he's going to be because he only had one catch. So if it's going to be like that for a couple of weeks, you might as well sit him, let him heal, and then play him. MVP, co-MVP for this game, Tyreek Stevenson and Jalen Johnson, the two cornerbacks for the Chicago Bears. Both of them played really, really well. Jalen Johnson just got paid, so he lived up to that contract in his first game after getting paid. Tyreek Stevenson had the pick six. He's another really, really good young corner. So really encouraging for the defense. The biggest upset of week 1 in the NFL was obviously Patriots-Bengals. Patriots won 16-10. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals in the Joe Burrow era have gotten off the really bad starts in September. But this is just another level. You're playing the Patriots with a first-year head coach, Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, and they traded away their best defensive player 2 weeks ago. What are you doing, man? Come on, Joey. Come on. Just the Bengals as a whole, defensively, offensively. Defensively, they couldn't figure out how to stop the run for the life of them. I know they're getting yelled at by Lou Anarumo. Joe Burrow was efficient, but that's only because he averaged 5.6 yards per attempt, which, that's just bottom tier quarterback play. You wanted that number to be at least 8 in a successful offense, especially if it's Joe Burrow that you're talking about. So that obviously isn't great. They were shut out in the first half. They tried to come back in the second. It failed. Maybe if you play 10 more minutes, they win, but that's not how this works. It's a 60-minute game. The Patriots defense played really, really well, in my opinion. They came up with timely stops. They made Joe Burrow uncomfortable. Keon White had a really great game. He was my MVP. Someone needed to step up after Matt Judon left, and he did that with 2.5 sacks. And then the Patriots offense, they did what they needed to. They ran the ball with Ramondre Stevenson. They passed the ball occasionally when they needed to. Jacoby Brissett didn't make a mistake. And that's why he's a starter, because they know that this defense can help them compete in almost any game. So it might be a longer while before we see Drake May. Jacoby Brissett did get dinged up a little bit in this game. But yeah, phenomenal first win for Gerard Mayo as a head coach. And just everything that he's building in New England, I'm digging it right now. Which sucks because I've hated on New England my entire life. But, it would be cool to see them just be successful this year. Moving on to the Colts and Texans. Probably my favorite game of this week outside of Lions-Rams. Because Lions-Rams are just special because I love watching Matthew Stafford play. And half the Detroit offense is on my fantasy team. Anthony Richardson, my guy. Only 9 completions for him, but those 9 completions led to 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a rushing touchdown. Now, obviously, there were some misses. Adonai Mitchell could have had a 300-yard game in his rookie debut if Anthony Richardson hits him on a couple passes. But that's just something that you have to work through. Think about Josh Allen in 2019-2020. He just had to work through all of this to become the guy that he is now, where yes, there's the occasional boneheaded turnover, but he's an MVP candidate and you're going to pay him like one. And that's where Anthony Richardson can end up. That throw to Alec Pierce for a touchdown might be one of the most athletic feats that I've seen in any sport. Because he is slipping. He drops back, he slips, he's walking back forward, trying to regain his footing, and just corks it 69 yards, nice, down the field to Alec Pierce for a touchdown. That is just unholy. Then the Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud is still C.J. Stroud. He is still an elite quarterback. Nico Collins is a bona fide wide receiver 1. I was interested to see if it would just be a 1-year thing with him, but the catches that he was making, god damn. Stephon Diggs as your wide receiver 2 is insane. He scored 2 touchdowns. Then you still have Tank Dell contributing after everything that he went through this offseason, which is a bonus. Joe Mixon might end up being the best acquisition of the offseason for any team because they got him for a 7th-round pick. And he finished the day with, over 100 yards of total offense, phenomenal for my fantasy team, and he's my MVP of the day. It was toss-up between him and CJ, but I'm going to give it to Joe Mixon, newcomer, and immediately made their run game look so good. And on top of that, just like going forward, if they can run the ball this well, imagine the capabilities of this offense, and you have to worry about the run and CJ Stroud. Like, that is just one putting it up there with the Lions, the Chiefs, the Eagles, a couple of these other teams. Dolphins, Jags. It was a comeback win for Miami. It was a really interesting day in Miami, Florida yesterday for the Dolphins football team. Obviously, the situation with Tyreek Hill and Calais Campbell is an absolute clusterfuck, and the people responsible for that should be, dealt with, punished, whatever they have coming their way. One of them's already on administrative leave because that cannot happen. And it was really cool watching Mike McDaniel talk about it this morning. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go look at it because he continues to just say the right thing every time, Mike McDaniel, which is why I think his team loves playing for him. But on the actual field, the Jaguars got out to an early lead. Miami came storming back. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle had over 100 yards receiving. They both looked like, a first-round pick and the highest-paid receiver in the NFL. And then Devon Achane was insane as well. Like, he's their running back of the future. Even though they have Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and they just drafted another running back. Like, they have a crazy talent at that position, which makes sense because McDaniel's background is as a run game guy. But Miami also just, they look grittier than last season. Because that's been their issue where, they're a very flashy and glitzy team. They got the speedsters at receiver. They got speedy running backs. But when the time came to it, they couldn't do it. But you know what? They came back and won against a pretty good Jaguars team. Like, the Jaguars aren't pushovers. They came back and won against them. And you got Calais Campbell making some great plays in the beginning of the game and just good plays defensively as well. For the Jaguars, I think it's concerning that you're being this inconsistent again after all of last season. And, your one playoff win in the Peterson-Lawrence era, you were down 27-0, and then you came back and won. So, just an interesting amalgamation of events happening in Jacksonville the last 3 years. Brian Thomas Jr., though, your first-round pick and receiver, Jacksonville fans, seems like an absolute baller already. LSU receivers are already goated. Shout out Malik Neighbors, but he looks unbelievable, and I cannot wait to see him continue to grow with Lawrence and get better and better. My MVP for the Dolphins-Jags game is obviously Tyreek Hill. Scotty Scheffler got arrested and then played a phenomenal round of golf. Tyreek Hill gets detained. He, is laid on the ground, all of that. 130 yards, touchdown. How we doing? Keep it moving. Elite celebration. Might be the greatest football celebration of all time. Now, Dolphins-Jags, 17-14. Pretty good offensive game. Saints-Panthers. Now, the Saints had a good offensive game. Carolina Panthers, not so much. And we talked about it. Dave Canales has been the quarterback whisperer 2 years in a row with Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. Can he do it again? As of right now, early returns, one game, not looking great. Because Bryce Young looked like he was shell-shocked back there. Bryce Young looked like he was going against the 85 Bears with, my PV League football team as his offensive line. It looked bad for the vast majority of the game. Now, for the Saints, they took advantage of a really bad team. Derek Carr played a really good game. Only 4 incompletions, 3 touchdowns. Really good, really efficient game. The Panthers' defense was supposed to be better. You got J.C. Horn, who's a first-round pick. You got the guy on the interior defense. You got Derek Brown, who I know got hurt, but, you still got him. And, you got Jadeveon Clowney for some reason. He decided to play for the Panthers. But, trading Brian Burns and getting nothing back for him really hurts in this position. And it just looks to be a bad season for Carolina yet again. And as a Giants fan, I'm starting to understand the pain. And I don't know. Giants-Panthers in Germany is about to be one of the worst football games of all time, maybe. But, yeah, great game for the Saints. Not really much else to say about that football game because it was a blowout, Giants-Vikings, probably another blowout. First of all, Sam Darnold Thank you. In my bold predictions video, I said Sam Darnold is about to have the best season of his career. And you know what? He started off great. I think he went through like almost 2 quarters of football without an incompletion. He threw 1 pick because he got smacked while he was throwing, and Darius Musow came up with the interception. But other than that, Sam Darnold looked great. He led a 99-yard drive, mainly throwing the ball at one point. So, just elite quarterback play, honestly, from Sam Darnold. Never thought I'd say that. The New York Football Giants, on the other hand. I'll get to Daniel Jones in a second, but something else is pissing me off even more. Kayvon Thibodeau, you're a first-round pick. Brian Burns, you're a first-round pick, and we just gave up multiple picks and paid you so much money. And you two can't do anything against a Vikings defensive line that's not even that good? Like, forget the offense and their struggles. This defense is supposed to carry the team. And that means the pass rush because half our secondary is rookies. What are you doing? What is the plan? Shane Bowden, what is the plan? Why was there no pressure generated? Dexter Lawrence had a sack because Dexter Lawrence is a beast and should win Defensive Player of the Year this year. But what are we doing as a defense? Now, the encouraging thing is that the offensive line played well and a lot of the rookies played really well. Drew Phillips forced a fumble. Tyler Newman had a really good game, didn't even come off the field. And, Dexter Lawrence. Offensive line. Andrew Thomas was his perfect self. The rest of the offensive line was pretty darn good as well. Yet, there is no plan to run the ball. There didn't seem to be a plan to get Neighbors involved until, the score was, 21-3 or whatever. They just looked like they had no identity, that they did not really care to be out there, and that gets put on coaching. And I think this is the first time that this has happened, that the Giants have just been solely unprepared for a football game. Because you're getting blown out by a team that, the Vikings were a 1-point favorite coming into it, but even more than that, they're playing Sam Darnold, and talent-wise, you're probably similar. And there's also nobody on the Vikings defense that's scary, and they just did that to you. You're going to have to play the Eagles defense. You're going to have to play the Cowboys. What are you going to do? This could be a really, really, really long season in New York, and I'm not looking forward to it. Thank you for coming to my rant about that. Moving on to the 4 o'clock games. We have the Chargers and the Raiders. It was really cool seeing J.K. Dobbins. He tore his Achilles last season. Has not always been the healthiest running back in the NFL. But 135 yards and a touchdown in his first game back from that injury. The Chargers ran the ball really well. Because, of course they did. Because they got Harbaugh and Greg Roman now. So they're going to run the ball and they're going to play good defense, which is what we saw. They only allowed 10 points. Because there are some good pieces on this defense. Gardner Minshew played okay. He took 4 sacks and threw a pick. But other than that, it was good journeyman quarterback football where you're not necessarily making too many mistakes, but you're not having any wow plays either. Justin Herbert had an efficient football game, scored a touchdown, low yards per attempt because, they don't really know who the field stretching guy is going to be yet. Ladd McConkey led the Chargers in targets, so we know that he's already going to be a major factor this season for their offense. And my MVP for this game is Joey Bosa, 6 tackles and a sack forced fumble and a forced fumble. So a great game for the Chargers. Raiders, this is what you get with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as your quarterback options. Defensively, though, I expect y'all to be better going forward. I will give you all a pass for week 1, but you got Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby and Antonio Pierce. That all of that should lead to a good defense. So y'all got to tighten that up, in my opinion, going forward. Broncos Seahawks, another pretty fun game. The Seahawks got off to an awful start. Geno throws a pick, and then before the second quarter's over, you take 2 safeties. But Mike McDonald, the defensive genius from the Baltimore Ravens, had that defense buzzing. And they put Bo Nix in an absolute, I don't even know what the word is, tornado. I don't know why I was thinking of the word tempest. But, Bo Nix struggled throughout the entire game. He will get better. The Broncos offense as a whole, I think the bigger issue besides Bo Nix is the fact that he was your leading rusher when you had got Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, and a couple other guys. So let's run the ball better, Denver, to help the rookie quarterback out. And I'm sure Sean Payton knows that because, once again, he gets paid millions of dollars, and I do not, sadly, yet. But other than that, Seahawks, they ran the ball well. 20 rushes for 103 yards for Kenneth Walker. I think he had a really good game. Like I said, the Denver run game needs a lot of work. They got to get better fast if they don't want to shell shock Bo Nix. MVP of this game, definitely not the Seahawks offensive line, because 2 safeties, Gino was getting rushed all game, and the Broncos are not a terrifying pass rush group. This isn't like when they had Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. The tackle situation in Seattle needs to get figured out because Geno Smith is not like a sprinter. My MVP for this game, former Giant, Julian Love, 10 tackles, an interception, and a forced fumble. Have yourself a day. Speaking of have yourself a day, this is random, but who misses the NFL Instagram account post that was have a day, had all the stats and stuff? I don't know why they stopped doing that because that was awesome. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Washington Commanders. Baker Mayfield woke up feeling dangerous, boys. 23-29, 4 touchdowns, 257 yards, no turnovers. He is the MVP of this game, in my opinion. He played almost perfect. Jaden Daniels, in his debut, 17-24, 184 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions, 88 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, no fumbles. So you scored twice, you put up over 250 yards of total offense, and you don't have any turnovers. I'd say all in all, that's a pretty good debut for a rookie quarterback. So Jaden Daniels, shout out. Now for some of the bad things for the Commanders. Terry McLaurin, 17 yards receiving for Terry. That's the best that we could do. We couldn't get him like a screen here or a screen there, just like force him the wall a little, get him going, build a rapport with Jaden. We didn't want to establish that in the first game. It's not like the Bucs have Darrelle Reeves out there at corner. Also, the Commanders' defense. Now, Dan Quinn is their head coach, so that defense will get figured out over time. I have full faith in that. But it was an awful first game for your defense, in my opinion. And then, Tampa Bay offensively, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Rachaad White all had really, really good days. Both receiving and rushing for Rachaad White, who I was lower on than usual, than other people coming into the season, but he had a really good first game. Once again, it was against the Commanders' defense. Bobby Wagner at 10 tackles. He's going to be the leader of this defense, but you need the group to come together and come together fast. Lucky for them, they get to play the Giants' offense next week, so I'm sure they'll look like the 85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens. Like I said, Baker Mayfield, MVP of the game. And our last game that we talk about, the Cowboys and the Browns. Now, coming into it as a Cowboys hater, Giants lover. I was mad that they finally got the Dak deal done and took care of a lot of the distractions that could happen because it's just less opportunity to make fun of them. But, Dak Prescott will have a bad game at some point this year, and then we'll make fun of them for giving him that much money. But he played really well. CeeDee Lamb played really well. Jake Ferguson getting hurt, I think, will be big for them. Now, luckily, it wasn't a huge injury. He's not going to miss the season. But just that is a big impediment to them because secondary pass catching wise, they don't really have a lot. Brandon Cooks had a really nice touchdown on an elite throw from Dak Prescott. Running wise, Zeke had 40 yards on 10 carries. So it's not awful, but they can't run the ball like they used to, and the young offensive line held up pretty decently, or as well as you can against Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. Cleveland. Andrew Berry, I like you. You're a smart guy. Ivy League educated, built a pretty good football team. Kevin Stefanski. You almost won a playoff game with Joe Flacco last year. In the year 2023, you had Joe Flacco looking like a good quarterback. You're a great coach. But honestly, both of you guys deserve to be fired because we can't fire owners. Because why in the hell would you get rid of Baker Mayfield, who had just won your franchise's first playoff game this century, I think, and go get a guy in Deshaun Watson that hadn't played football in 2 years, that had a very creepy off-field history, which more of that got added on today. And you paid him $230 million guaranteed without seeing how he would play. Now, Deshaun Watson's played in less than 12 games since the year 2020. And he has not looked good in 11 of them. He had a good comeback against the Ravens last season. That's about it. But everything that made Deshaun Watson special is not there anymore. And quite frankly, it doesn't look like Deshaun Watson having fun playing football anymore. You could see, like, Deshaun Watson was one of my favorite quarterbacks, like, 2017 to 2020. And now, like, he's probably one of my least favorite people in the NFL for obvious reasons. But, like, also, he's just not good at football anymore. And it's very evident. And it's kind of sad, honestly. Defensively, Dallas, in their first game in Mike Zimmer, they look really good. My MVP for this game is Eric Kendricks. 8 tackles and a pick off a tip ball. But it comes down to the Browns having one of the best defenses in the NFL. It's not the best defense in the NFL. Having a really good pass-catching group. Having a good offensive line. And when Nick Chubb comes back, having a good running back room. Yet, none of that will matter if that's the quarterback play that they continue to get. Because they can't get rid of him either. They're going to have like a $110 million dead hit if they cut him after this year. So, if I'm them, I put Jameis Winston in the game. Because Jameis Winston will at least take some risks, move the ball down the field. There will be some interceptions, but you'll run the ball, play action deep balls, and it'll be an entertaining brand of football that your defense will probably get behind, more so than what they're trying to deal with right now. That was my recap for the Week 1 NFL games. You know, this is my first time doing this. It's a lot of information to get through. It will get better week after week. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and peace.